Evening and welcome to AMFAW number 30 with the full crews here with the exception of the Alabama Owens and Skinny Medic, and we want to welcome y'all and thank y'all for tuning in. And I expect some comments on the intro music because we worked hard on that today. So as always, I'd like to introduce the panel before we get started, and we'll start moving from left to right. And our first panelist today is D. Will Hoyt, Kentucky Guns and Fun. Hello, David.
Hey there, everybody. I'm David from D. Will Hoyt, Kentucky Guns and Fun. Glad to be here tonight. Hope to see some questions and good conversation.
Awesome. And next in line is Jarhead6. Introduce yourself to our guest there, Jarhead6.
Hey everyone, Jarhead6. I run a YouTube channel here, Jarhead6, and I make videos about a bunch of different things. I appreciate you guys watching.
And our resident Red Cross volunteer and active duty Air Force budget bug out.
Hey guys, yep, as he said, I'm a Red Cross volunteer, active duty Air Force, and I run a sort of little bit of prep type of video channel here on YouTube, and yeah, very happy to be a part of this rig.
And I am Ted Owens. I'm one of the primaries on the AMFAW channel, one of the primary administrators, and knowing that this channel is all about giving back to the community. We want to offer the community something with every one of these chats. So we always start our chat off the same way, those of you that are familiar with us, and that is with a Bible verse. And our verse tonight is going to be directly out of the book of Psalms, and I'm heavy on that. You guys know that. That's been around for a while. It's going to be chapter 46, and primarily the verse 10, which is, "Be still and know that I am God." I'm going to start from the top of chapter 46 and read down to that paragraph, and then I'll stop, and we'll go right on into the chat. So chapter 46 begins with, "God is our refuge and strength, a tested help in times of trouble. And so we need not fear, even if the world blows up and the mountains crumble into the sea. Let the oceans roar and foam, and let the mountains tremble. There is a river of joy flowing through the city of our God, a sacred home of the God above all gods. God himself is living in that city, therefore it stands unmoved despite the turmoil everywhere. He will not delay his help. The nations rant and rave in anger, but when God speaks, the earth melts into submission, and the kingdoms totter into ruin. The commander of the armies of heaven is here among us. He is the God of Jacob and has come to rescue us. Come see the glorious things that our God does, how he brings ruin upon the world and causes wars to end throughout the earth, breaking and burning every weapon. Be still and know that I am God." So that leads us right into the segment we have tonight, which let us discuss, leads us into our discussion, which is how to deal with that stress and how to help your family mitigate stress when you have an event going on, whether it's a power outage or an incoming storm or a fire or anything along those lines, because we want to be able to manage that stress. We want to be able to kind of help our family cope with things. And as the leader of our households, or even maybe not even the leaders of our household, but as a member of our household, we have to be able to help our families manage that stress. So I'm going to let Budget Bug Out kick it off with some Red Cross tips, and then we'll roll from there.
Appreciate it. Yeah, one of the things I talk about is preparing for disasters, and part of that includes speaking with children, learn coping mechanisms. One of the things that I'm a part of is something that's it's somewhat new. It's called the Pillowcase Project. Just starting to get rolled out nationwide, and we teach them two different types of coping mechanisms. One of them is learning how to kind of breathe, breathe calmly and breathe deeply, and just the ways, kind of tricks to teach them that. It's called breathing in color. You breathe in good colors, and then you breathe out the bad colors. Like grays, you breathe out that kind of stuff. And then we also teach them a way to something called symbol of strength. It takes a little bit longer to explain, but knowledge is power, especially for adults. Knowing will not only help you mitigate the effects of them, but it'll also reassure you. Also, staying in touch with what's going on through either radio or the TV or apps. Mobile apps are amazing. We've had 4 tornado watches in the last 4 weeks, basically, in this area. 2 of them tornado warnings. So I've experienced a lot of these different knowledge notifiers. I'll just say different ways of notifying me or other people of what's going on. Having a NOAA weather radio is great. I got one right here. Just a little portable one. I got a couple of them in the house. You only really need one, but yeah, those are just some of the ways that we suggest people stay calm and stay notified. My wife doesn't like the NOAA weather radio, so I have to use these headphones and plug them in and listen to it, because she doesn't like the constant things that the weather radio is saying. But it to me, it's calming knowing what's going on. Having a TV is great until the power goes out. So keep that in mind as well. Have a backup to the TV in case you lose power. That's about all I got for the moment.
So let's kick over to David right quick. And David, you got youngsters at your house, and so what do you do to manage those youngsters in the event the bad weather's coming in? How do you help keep them calm?
That's a great question, Ted. I have a daughter. She's 9 years old, and just one of the ways I think, kind of playing off of what Budget Bugout was saying, is that knowledge is power, and we just kind of talk about situations. And there's certain situations that you're going to have to deal with in life in general. That is, there are going to be things that are happening that are out of your control, and you do what you can to make yourself safe while they're happening to the best of your ability. And like in the storm situation, we have a basement in my house, and we know, to when we hear the sirens or the notifications about storms coming, we know to go to the basement and seek shelter and do those types of things. And so, just, I guess, talking about it as a family is part of what we do. And then I explain, like a lot of things in life, try to remain calm as much as you can. When things are happening that are outside your control, try to remain as calm as you can given the circumstance, and the cooler heads will prevail the majority of the time. And so
Yeah,
I
find that oftentimes if that pillar of the household is stoic, calm, in control, everybody else is going to follow suit. You can kind of help diffuse their anxiety by how you conduct yourself. So I want to ask Jarhead 6. I know he's got a couple of young sons there in the house with him, and he's all about preparing for that home invasion and natural disasters and all that other stuff. I want to ask Jarhead 6, how are your children taught? What are they taught to do in the event you have a home invasion? I know that's a kind of an anxiety-ridden situation, but I know you've talked to them. I know they can't be in your household and not have some kind of knowledge of what Dad's doing. So kind of tell us how things go with you and your children when you're preparing for an event.
Well, yeah, I mean, I talk to the boys. I got two boys, and they know that if something, um, usually it's kind of funny, but I always tell my little boys that if they wake up in the middle of the night and they happen to see a bad guy in front of them, not to worry because I'm coming right after him. So they always say that kind of thing. But I mean they know that daddy is right there in the next room, and they know that dad will protect them from anything. And I think that's critical, to the point that your kids actually trust you to protect them. I think if they trust you to protect them, they when they go to sleep, they will go to sleep in peace because they know that someone is there to protect you. Kind of like when we go to combat and you got your good brothers out there protecting you. You could sleep in peace because you know your brothers out there, either standing fire watch or whatever, protecting you. And I mean, my boys know that I have firearms, and they know that we haven't just one for fun because we love shooting, and two, if somebody happens to come inside the house, is to defend ourselves. So I tell them things like, "Hey, if something happened, just stay in your room. Dad is gonna come looking for you." Um, we live in a two-story house.
I think he froze up on us. Um, so he's brought up a good point before we lost him. So uh, now we know before. I think David has a comment. Go ahead.
Well, as somebody said earlier about the being stoic and in control, and that's going to at a different point in time in my life, I was in the fire services and EMS and things like that, and the person
and
that's
and making sure they understand the plan, and just having that plan is critical. And one more thing, David has a shotgun hanging from the back is like actually motivating me a lot. He's prepared.
You had dropped off there for a while, and we couldn't hear you for a little while, so we moved on actually. So
Oh man. All right, I'm back now though. So where did I stop?
uh, second floor is where the last thing we heard. You said
Oh yeah, second floor, pretty much meaning that I don't allow my kids to go downstairs on the first floor just because I don't want to, I don't want to hear noises everywhere. Uh, I may think that some bad guys inside my house or something. So if they need something, they will knock on the door, and I come downstairs and pick up water or a snack or whatever they want. But pretty much having that trust, if they trust you to protect them, and you guys got a plan and you guys follow the plan, that's what's going to keep you alive, that plan. So
yeah, I think David was going to add to that.
and part of having that plan and the trust that Jarhead Six was talking about, I agree with that, and that is being calm, being as in control as you can in a chaotic situation, such as a weather-related event. You've got your house basically coming apart around you. It's tough to actually prepare to deal with that, but you don't have to run around like a chicken with its head cut off. You can do things, and bad things are going to happen sometimes. But point being, cooler heads are always going to prevail. Stay in control. And by you being that way, the people that are in your group are going to see that, and they're going to know that at least you're there to try to help the best that you can in that circumstance.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Budget Bug had brought to our attention several chats back that the most common event that folks have in their life is not a storm, it is a fire. There are more house fires than anything else. And so I would like for you to talk to that point right there on, move and delivery through your house, the fire escapes, the exits, the rally points, and stuff like that, that we all need to have regardless of the situation. There needs to be a rally point in that house. Your children know that if the tornado sirens goes off, that we are going to go to the basement. We're going to go here. If the smoke alarm goes off, we're going to meet in the hallway and we're going to go out of the house here. So I'd like for you to talk a little bit about that if you would, Budget Bug Out.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So yeah, every time that I talk, whether it be to adults or children, we always begin talking about fires because they're so common. All natural disasters combined, house fires happen more often than all of them to people. So and more fatalities and things like that. It's good to have two different places to meet up in case of a disaster. One for a localized disaster like a fire, so have know where if you get separated from your kids or whoever else is living with you, know where you're going to meet up. So you can take accountability. That's a military terminology right there. Taking accountability, I'm sure. And have a second meeting up place in case something happens to your neighborhood. So have like a friend's house or just something that you can meet up in case something happens and people are at work or running errands or soccer practice or whatever. Know where you're going to meet up if something happens to your neighborhood. But back to fires. They say to practice evacuating from fire blindfolded. They say to practice that twice a year. Now I have stairs, so I don't. I'm very careful with that kind of stuff. But the point is that you won't be able to see what's going on if a fire happens because of the smoke is so thick it's hard to see through. Another thing to keep in mind is just the heat itself. At ground level, the temperature of a fire is 90 degrees typically. The temperature at eye level, depending on how tall you are, I guess, is somewhere close to 600 degrees, which is twice as hot as some of the temperatures that you're going to preheat your oven to. So the feeling you get when you open your oven and 350 degrees shoots up to your eyes. Imagine being inside something that's twice as hot. A single breath will actually literally scorch your lungs. So these are all kind of things that I share with people to scare them. I mean, to help raise awareness about what's going on during a fire. But like you said, have a good meeting place. Try to have more than one way to exit or to evacuate. One thing that people don't realize is that keeping your doors closed at night will actually help mitigate fire from spreading from room to room. If you're stuck somewhere and you're trying to figure out, where to go, if you have towels, you can run. Like for me, I got a bathroom over here. You can take a towel, make it wet or damp, put it on the bottom, of your door, where smoke could get in, and try to figure out, how you're going to get out your next exit. That's just another way to help mitigate it, and just making sure that you have working smoke detectors is also important. Just something as simple as that. 1/3 of all fatalities related to fires are because they don't have smoke detectors that are working. Either the batteries stopped, or they disabled it a lot of times. Or they just don't have one.
And they
So
say
those
the best
are
time
important things to have.
to change those batteries is when you set your clocks forward and back,
Yep.
correct?
Yes, that's something that's recommended. At least change them once a year, but it's recommended to do it twice a year, usually when you spring forward or fall back.
Awesome. So, um, and that's some very, very good knowledge to take away for fire, because there's a lot of smoke injuries that come along with a burning house too, because you have a huge amount of toxic chemicals just in the basic building materials that go into a house. Now, the National Fire Protection Act has forced some of these businesses to not use those chemicals like formaldehyde and stuff like that in the manufacture of certain textiles, especially the stuff that they use to upholster your sofas and chairs with. But it used to be in the old days that just a huge amount of toxic fumes would roll off of your living room sofa. I mean, this thing was worse than mustard gas. Um, so bearing that in mind too, that that getting low to the floor not only gets you out of that heat zone, but it also gets you, because with that heat, as that heat rises, it takes those toxins with them. So that's where the fresh air is going to be. That space you're going to have to live in right there is below knee level. So David wants to pipe in on that.
I was just going to say, I mean, like I said earlier, I was a fireman a long time ago, and there is nothing inside that house other than maybe a loved one that you need to get back in. Once you're outside, going back inside a burning structure, it's not advised. Uh, the blindfold part of it, I've been in burning structures. There's no way to describe what's going on inside there other than you can't see what's going on. So you have to get low. The temperature, it is unbearable. It's the smoke. It's not that people actually burn up most of the time. It's that the smoke overwhelms them, and that takes that takes its toll on their body. But um, having a plan on getting out and being aware of your house and knowing the places that you can go to make an exit. And for example, Jarhead 6 mentioned he was in a two-story structure. There needs to be an escape ladder. It could be that the entire first floor were to be fully involved and there is no egress down the steps, so he is going to have to go out the window. And so things like that, and pre-planning. Pre-planning is one of the big things, just like we were talking about earlier. As much as you can, pre-plan for a situation that is going to be totally out of your control.
What you think about that, Jarhead 6? Do you have a secondary evacuation route for your family if something happens in that two-story house?
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, I got a M67 grenade, M79 blooper gun, and a machine gun. Make a hole in the wall. No, no, that's a good point, David. I don't. I do have an exit route. Well, I guess it will be an exit route. You know, the way that a house is has one of those things where it have like a porch with a roof. So pretty much, I probably will go from the second floor through there, and from there down, and that's probably about 10 feet. Uh, with my back injury, it's probably gonna hurt. But again, I'm not planning to be burned inside the house. So yeah, that's a very very good point. That again we had to talk about it, and I talked about it with my children about that. And if something ever happened, we kind of like in a corner intersection. So it's like a live post, and we're planning to meet up there in the case of a fire or something like that. So.
I think Budget Bugger has something to add.
Yeah, just to piggyback onto what Jarhead 6 was saying, and also kind of a question for Dua Hoyt. Now, my plan is I also live in the two-story home, and our bedrooms at the top floor. But we have a big window right over there, and our plan was to open the window and go out onto the roof, and there's just the garage door below it. So we were going to, lower ourselves down, and it wouldn't be too much of a drop after we lower ourselves down from the roof. Holding onto the side. Is that still okay, even though we don't have a ladder, coming up anywhere? Would that still be a pretty good route?
I personally wouldn't want it to be the way I had to go. I mean, dropping 8 or 10 feet in the dark after you've been run out of your home because it's on fire, and your adrenaline's going, the chances of an accident are just way increased. And that one slip from 8 or 10 feet, and somebody could become seriously hurt, much worse than a broken ankle. I mean, I'm talking critical injury. And so I would want some sort of mechanism to help me get down. And, whether it's a fire ladder that's attached to something that I can roll out, it's going to help, hold it away from the building to where you can actually make it usable, whether it's some structure that you've built that's out beside your house that your plants grow on, but you fully know that will accept your weight, so you can now use it for a ladder. There are things that you could create that you could use and it be part of decoration still, and something that's functional in the event again, it's like most things that we're planning for. We hope they never happen, pray they never do, but in the event that they do, we're as prepared as we can be. So I would want it to be a little different than that, just from a safety standpoint. And you could have a guest in your house, small children in your house. It might not just be you and your physical abilities. It might not be all that you're taking into consideration there. So that's another thing to think about altogether.
Well, another thing too is while you guys was talking about that, I flipped over to my phone and pulled up Amazon and typed in fire escape ladder. And right now, the Kid Company, KIDDE, who is very well known for safety material, safety supplies, they have a two-story fire escape ladder with uh, anti-slip rungs, 13-foot long, for $35. And $35 is some pretty cheap insurance to get your family out. Now, I'm glad that you guys brought this to our attention tonight because the wife and I are in the process of building a house. And the children's rooms, even though the master bedroom is going to be on the ground floor because that's where her and I are going to live when we don't have company over, that secondary zone, that upstairs zone, will be excluded by a door for energy saving purposes. But that's where our guests are going to be. So I'm going to make sure that I put one of these in every closet over there, and everybody's going to be briefed up on how to use it. Another very important point, when I'm building this house, I'm going to make sure that I'm not going to put something underneath that window that's going to impede their movement, like an air conditioning unit or anything along those lines. I'm not certainly don't want to plant rose bushes underneath the second story window, so when they drop out, they're going to land in a big pile of rose bushes. So I need to make sure that that pathway is clear and free from obstacles. That kind of betrays a lifelong thought that I've had that you want to put, prickly bushes, Chinese holly and rose bushes under your windows to keep bad guys from creeping in. And so I think it a better, there's the old saying that in the Army that the easy way is always mined, and if the bad guy can't get in, you can't get out. So I guess we need to remember that. So uh, Jarhead Six was hitting on something very close, and he has a question he wants to bring to the attention. So go ahead, Jarhead Six.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about during my time in the Marine Corps, I was lucky enough to go to physical security school in 2007, which was a Army class, and it was only like 3, 4 Marines, and it was a full Army class. So you could just imagine that, Ted. It was pretty interesting to be there. But anyways, I I went to physical security school, and that's one of the things that teach you as you building a house. In your case, you're building a house, but in our case, it was more like building a base or building an armory and things like that. You identify all this possible things that could happen. Some of the things could be versus criminal activity, and some of the other things could just be straight up safety concerns. It doesn't have to be a bad guys coming through the front door. It could just be something safety. Like placing the AC in a different location, so like you said, so it won't stop a guy from being in the middle or something. So yeah, walking around the house and identifying those things now that you build in the house is good. And like David was saying, uh, there's a lot of things nowadays that you could purchase that actually looks like part of the house, part of the decoration that you could use as a device to like climb down, things like that. You see it a lot in the police station. They have those pots with flowers. People think they're flowers, but in reality, it's a barrier for possibly car bomb or something like that. They're just trying to create a standoff and then make it look nice and pretty. So yeah, there are some things out there that you could establish that people would never even guess that they there for that point, and maybe have some flowers or something pretty. That's my point.
Yeah, it's a very good point too. Is people don't look at when they design a house, they want it to. Most people build a house, and I'm seeing this, especially this neighborhood we're building in, because they are kind of, whew, and but they don't build it for themselves. They build it for what the neighbors are going to think. They want it to look a certain way, and I think a homeowners association where they certainly have a validity kind of get a little full of themselves sometimes, telling you how short you got to cut your grass and what kind of flowers you can have in the front yard. And believe it or not, the homeowners association we're going to be involved in is going to prohibit me from having a flagpole in my yard. I got news for them. There's going to be a flagpole in that yard, and they can take me on in court if they want to. I know that going in, so let's get it hot. I'm ready for the fight. But um, I want to talk a little bit about mitigating the effects of adrenaline, because we know that when something happens, you are not going to be able to function physically. You're going to lose your manual dexterity. Your thought processes are going to be so sped up when that adrenaline hits you that you're not going to be able to think clearly. So one of the ways to mitigate the effects of adrenaline when the fire alarm's going off at 2 o'clock in the morning and the kids are screaming at the top of their lungs, and you don't know which way to turn, and smoke's coming in, and you're crawling around on your hands and knees trying to find your children, you know, you need to have a very muscle memory practice route so that this is second nature to you. We don't have to look very far back into our past to remember those fire drills and tornado drills that they used to have when we were in grade school and high school even. And I work for a major oil company, and I never have gone to a meeting yet where they haven't told us where the rally point is and where the nearest exits are. And so that's something else we want to talk about. So I would like to ask the panel, and any of you three could pipe in whenever you want to here if you have something to add to that. I would like to ask you guys, how can you effectively mitigate the effects of adrenaline on your thought processes? All right, we got one coming in from Jarhead 6.
Hey, Ted, real quick, first of all, budget bug out haircut is motivating me. Just want to put that out there. Looks really nice. So, but you know, I I I talk to a lot of guys about this, and a lot of times we have to. Sometimes we got to do things, even though you're gonna have stress, even though you're not gonna like it, even though it sucks. Sometimes you got to do things, and I mean, at one point I used to run 10 miles. And people would ask you, how can you run 10 miles? And I said, well, when you don't have a choice and they're making you, and that sergeant is screaming at you, you got to do it. And even in combat, we hit a couple of car bombs, IEDs, small arm attacks, and sometimes you got to do things because your life depends on it. And if you don't move fast enough, if you don't react, you're just gonna die. So I think when it comes down to mitigating that stress, you're never going to be able to mitigate the stress. I don't care how many things could happen. You could go through 3, 4 different fires. I'm sure David could talk about this. You're always going to have a little bit of stress in your background. Now you get more experience as you go through life and get experience in probably in your job and things like that. Like me when I was a former Marine, being a former Marine, but you're always gonna have that stress. I think the key point is to have a plan, train on that plan, and like you said, muscle memory. So when something happens, your body react to the point that you don't even think about it, and that's something that I learned in the military. It goes down to fire. It goes down to anything, self-defense. Somebody grabs you for whatever reason, and your body automatically detects that deadly force, and your hand goes straight to the pistol without even notice that you did that. That is muscle memory, and that muscle memory will keep people alive. So yeah, have a plan, train on that plan, and you're gonna be stressed out. But guess what? You're gonna have to do what you got to do to survive. That's
Train
my
like your
take
life
on it.
depends on it. So
Yep.
I think David has something to add.
That is a lot of what I was going to say. I mean, is that you're only going to be able to do so much. You can only breathe so calmly under certain circumstances when the events are going down outside of your control. But I think that you'll fall back on training that you have and knowledge that you have and experiences that you have had with all of those things, and relying on other people's experiences that are with you and around you, and trusting what they tell you to be true under certain circumstances. So a lot of it is going to be just being able to, I keep saying this tonight, but the cooler head. And you just have to, as Jarhead said, you're going to have to do things sometimes that's just nasty and it's ugly and it's just part of it. But what is the alternative? lay down and just, say I'm done, or I'm not going to help this person because I can't. I said this the other day. I would hate to be a person that pulled up on just a terrible accident and the only thing I could do was dial 911. I mean, that's going to be something that everybody can do, but I want to be able to provide assistance to all the people that I'm around in times when they're at need. And so I want to keep them alive until we get them to a higher medical authority, with whatever that is. So that's just what I want to do as a citizen. I think
Hey,
Ted's frozen up now.
yeah,
Yeah, I just fell off
he's
for a
back.
second. Sorry, fellas.
Oh, that's
Um,
okay.
He's still you now.
all right. Well, sorry. I don't know how to stop that. So there's going to be five icons open for
It's
a
funny.
while. So and I want to apologize for that little glitch there. I don't know what happened. I just dropped. But um, I, again, we're going to fall back on our training. We're going to fall back on that muscle memory, those things in life that we have practiced and rehearsed over and over again. So that brings us right around to the next topic. If you, and I'm not talking about you guys because I know the four of us are, but I want to ask the viewers, especially the folks that are watching this right now, um, are you capable, if it came down to it, are you capable of carrying, physically picking up and fireman carrying the largest member of your family out of a burning house if you have to? Are you capable of performing CPR on somebody when the stress has overwhelmed them and their heart locks up? Are you capable of performing mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to get somebody that has suffered from smoke inhalation? These are all things we can't, in good conscience, call ourselves preppers, calling ourselves, being prepared, if we're not prepared for everything from the smallest scrape and cut to CPR to mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to a drowning victim, in the neighbor's pool to people that have gotten swept away in a flash flood. Um, so yeah, I think Budget Bug Out has something to add to that. Come in.
Yeah, whenever I talk about who's prepared, one of the slides, and I've said this figure to y'all, one of the things it takes into account of being prepared is, are you prepared for a natural disaster or emergency that will keep you uh, not only able to eat and drink and still be able to do things like sanitize and things like that, flashlights, etc. Not only will it keep you going, but CPR and first aid is another part of that. Only 1 in 10 are estimated of being prepared for a natural disaster or emergency, including first aid and CPR. But 51% of people in America have experienced a time where they've evacuated and wasn't able to return home. They've been without power for 3 days or more, or they've needed to use first aid or CPR. So yeah, just to highlight that, that is part of being prepared, CPR and first aid.
You know, David had put a comment in our internal chat, and I see his icons up. I hope he's not away from the screen there, but he's telling us that we can take the CPR class and we can learn that procedure. We can learn the mechanics of CPR, because CPR done wrong can do more damage than the actual event. Uh, uh, he says it's not easy to bring a person back, so we have to be prepared for that eventuality. If we can't get that person back, you know, how does that affect a person's mind, David? You want to kind of talk to us a little bit about your experiences with CPR?
Well, um, yeah, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's one of those deals that you take it on going into it. You kind of know the things that you're dealing with, and as somebody that's going to be in the emergency medical services, you're going to deal with people that you're trying to help, and the help you're giving is just not going to work. And at some point in time, the doctor will say, just quit, and that's I don't know how to describe how you deal with that. It's something that you just have to deal with. I mean, life goes on. There's still accidents happening. You're leaving the hospital on your way to go help somebody else. This person's dead, and you have to go. Your job continues on. So the show must go on.
Yeah, it's a very valid point. I'm sure it doesn't get any easier though, to walk away when that person was alive when you started, even barely, and not when you left. And you have to, and it's hard to kind of put that behind you. It's hard to leave that that feeling behind you because it's going to be on your mind for a while, and I'm sure you still carry some of that around with you.
Well, in different circumstances, you're dealing a lot of times where there's family members involved and they're around, and you know, it's the actual action of doing CPR on a person most of the time involves just body fluids and things that are just it might not be exactly what it looks like on television when you
Yeah,
when you
so
really do it. And there's going to be most of the time bones breaking and stuff like that. It just happens.
yeah, I imagine it's more difficult with somebody that's got for lack of a better term, a class 3 leak going on when they're spewing foamy blood out of their mouth or suffering from a sucking chest wound and all that stuff that goes along with combat trauma. I've been watching a television show lately on Nat Geo, and I was fascinated with it all day Sunday, and it was about Air Force PJs in Iraq that are out flying out, recovering these folks that have been in fire. I mean, they're the air med rescue for these folks, and I was wondering if Budget Buygout could take just a second and Jarhead Six in turn and see if we couldn't discuss. Now I know the Marine Corps uses uh, Navy personnel, Navy corpsmen, which they call them devil ducks, Marines with funny hats. I see that on one of the YouTube channels out there, so that's pretty good. So just briefly, I'd like Budget Bug to tell us what he knows about the Air Force PJs and the role they play in today's military.
Well, it's funny actually. In tech school, I went to school with combat controllers. I was an air traffic controller, and they all kind of go through a lot of the same trainings and stuff like that. But as far as outside of me meeting with them and talking with them and just kind of picking their brain and seeing what it's all about, all I know is that I forgot what their motto is. It's not do no harm. It's something else. But they're very. I just
That
know that they're
others
very
may
highly.
live.
Yes, that's what it is. That others may live. So I would hear that phrase a lot when it comes to that career field. But as far as firsthand knowledge goes, I can't say that I know too much other than just speaking with those individuals. They're very highly motivated and highly intelligent individuals. All of the special forces people.
So Budget Bug Out, I mean, I'm sorry, Jarhead Six, you want to kind of tell us your experience with Navy corpsmen?
Yeah, Navy corpsmen. The Navy and Marines got a weird relationship. You got a lot of Navy guys are on the something they call blue side, which means they're straight up blue Navy, never even have a relationship with Marines. But then you have the green side, and the funny thing is that the Navy guys on the green side, they always talking really bad against the blue side because they're just like Marines. They hang around with Marines, they sleep where Marines are, they go to combat with Marines, and I have had Navy guys attached to my squad as corpsmen, and going on patrols and things like that. I mean, they're just one of the guys. They If they have to pull trigger, they'll pull trigger, and if they have to provide you know, some type of medical support to people, they do that. But I wanted to say first, like a lot of guys need to learn how to do. There's a couple of things when it comes down to providing medical support. You got self support, and then you got your buddy support, and then you have the guys, the corpsmen, EMS, ENTs, firefighters coming down. Like a lot of guys don't know how to make a difference between that. Meaning that self support is something that you're gonna provide support to yourself. If you get shot, if you get stabbed, you could take your belt off and put a tourniquet. You could cover that wound. Things like that. If you have a laceration where you're bleeding, you could find a way to stop the bleeding. I mean, of course, if you get shot, it's going to be difficult, very very difficult. But that is your self support, medical support. Now you go into buddy support. That could be your wife. Your wife. It's nothing to do with. She may not be a firefighter or anything like that, but she could, in some kind of way, she could stop the bleeding. She could put a patch, she could put a tourniquet, and then you got the guys. When medical support arrive, in this case, like corpsmen. So yeah, definitely the corpsmen. If we're gonna talk about the corpsmen, I met amazing dudes in the Navy, corpsmen that were great. They do an awesome job, and in my book, I saw them saving a lot of Marines' life, and they're very very cool guys. Um, so yeah, mainly, we need to learn how to do buddy support, and self support is critical for us to learn. So we need to take some classes and things like that.
Yeah, I agree 100%, and that's why it's very important that every one of y'all watching this go to skinnymedic.com and get your first aid kit. He has a very good comprehensive kit. He has a blowout kit. He has a kit for the house. He has all kind of different products there that can help you. And because he's such an approachable guy, he can also offer you some advice on how to use them. So good stuff there. You're talking about the PJs and the Navy corpsman, and it reminds me of a quote I saw not long ago. Now I work with a little fella. He's big as I am. Back from tours overseas, and so I saw this little quote, and it says, "Before they call to their mother and before they call to God, they will call me, and I will always be there." And it's kind of a little quote for an Army medic. And I remember back in when I was at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, stationed with the 502nd Infantry there in my younger days. We had, when I was with Alpha Company, we had the same medic all the time. When we went to the field, Doc Robin grabbed his med bag and he went to the field with us. And he was, for all intents and purposes, he was a grunt. Yeah, he treated blisters and burns and all the little things that go along with that. But I know in my heart, and I knew then, and like I know now, that if one of us suffered a gunshot wound, and even though we were cross-trained in combat first aid, how to put a tourniquet on and sucking chest wounds and all those things and heat casualties, uh, I knew that guy was going to save my life when I needed it. I knew I didn't have to look far, and Doc Rabin was going to be right there with his bag and with that first aid bandage, between his teeth as he's getting ready to spike a vein. And those guys are underappreciated by the general public, but the guys that go in harm's way, they certainly cherish them as much as any other brother beside them with a rifle in their hands. So God bless the medics. Jarhead Six has a question.
Yeah, I was gonna add up on that, Ted. A lot of times you got the medic, and he may be an E3, E4, and he comes down to the E6 staff sergeant, and he'd be like, "Hey, take off your boots. I want to see your feet." And you're like, "Go away, man. Don't bother me." And they would tell you, "No, I want to check your feet. I want to check you, and I don't care what you say." So they like stand up for the job. And in the other hand, a lot of times you're pushing out your troops or you're doing something, and they will stick up to be like, "Hey, Star Sergeant, you need to slow it down. You're being too tough to the guy." So I mean, if you get a good medic or a good corpsman, he's always looking out for the troops. He's always looking out for his patient. And I'm assuming it's the same thing with David being a former firefighter. You guys always looking out for the good of the people.
Yes,
Yes. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you're definitely looking out for the fellow firefighters that you're with, and medics that you're with in any circumstance. You're taking care of, you've got each other's back before you've got anybody else's back. You don't want to become part of the problem.
That's a very good point. You can absolutely become more detrimental. That's why training is important, and having a skill set. And a prime example of that is, they have that nasopharyngeal airway that we've seen folks put in. As a matter of fact, Reality Survival actually has a video where he's putting it in his own nose. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. But it's not very difficult to look around on YouTube, on eBay, or some of these other websites, and get your hands on a real honest to goodness um, blowout kit, a combat trauma kit. And some of those have that chest decompression needle in it. And this is the prime example. If you don't know how to use that, and you go spike somebody's chest thinking you're helping them out, you're going to kill them. And so that's why it's very important. You could be part of the solution, or you could be part of the problem. And to my mind, being part of the solution is having the right equipment and having the right training on that equipment, knowing how to use it, and knowing how to use it dead cold, knowing how to use it perfectly every single time. You know that I need this, and I need that, and this all has a specific purpose. You're not going to put a Band-Aid on a second chest wound. You're going to grab a big giant chunk of plastic, and you're going to slap it over the entry hole and the exit hole, and you're going to roll that person over on that bad lung, and you're going to let that lung inflate. And it's those things that knowing that training, having it down dead cold, is going to be the reality of saving a loved one's life. So before we close out, and we're getting down to about the last 6 minutes of the chat, I want to talk about managing medicines and managing the hardware that goes along with an event. So we've talked briefly about the emergency escape ladders. Now, David, you have a basement, and it gets pretty dark in everybody's basement. I'm sure Budget Bug Out, has a little Freddy hole that they run into there on base when a tornado comes in, because he's in Tornado Alley. So are the flashlights staged in one particular spot, so everybody in the family knows where they got them? Does everybody have their own, or do they have them right there on their belt all the time? So I'll talk first to David, and then David, if you would throw it to Budget Bug Out so he can follow up.
Sure, Ted. Yeah, everybody in my family has their own flashlights, and what they're doing with those at any given time. there's no telling. I make sure they keep fresh batteries in them. But there are flashlights in different places. There are flashlights that are on wall chargers, electric flashlights that are going to be fully charged. Lights that I have, the normal LED flashlights, high-powered flashlights. I have lantern-type flashlights that will provide like a small room type of lighting in the event, a power outage. So yes, I have multiple types of light sources, and they are in different places. And everybody's bed has a light beside it. And so I'll just throw it over to Budget Bug Out.
Nice. So yes, I have a couple flashlights here. These are just the ones that I keep in this room. I got some headlamps here, and you got some little mini lights. I got mag light over here. These things, you pull them out of wall sockets, like Dave was saying, and they turn on. And then these ones, even if they lose power, they charge, and then these little lights will still keep going. But I'm actually doing a flashlight video. That's why I have all these flashlights right here. I'm actually in the middle of filming it. Little lanterns.
My question: do you just keep those staged there all the time? You got some kind of freaky flashlight fetish going on?
Well, my wife would probably say that I'm kind of crazy about flashlights. But yeah, I have them staged in different areas because I have I have so many of them. It makes me feel better about the amount that I have. But I think it's great to have flashlights on in the outlets. They the power goes out and then the light goes on. I just think that's pretty cool. Um, but yeah, it's important to have flashlights in case of emergency. More so, and I've told you all this before. It's not great for the general public unless they're hardcore campers or military like you guys kind of experienced that y'all have had. It's not necessarily a great idea to have candles all over the house. The Red Cross recommends flashlights in case of an emergency. It's good to have a couple maybe that are rechargeable in some manner as well, just in case you're out for a while, and as well as having a plethora of batteries.
I saw that Jarhead 6, shined his camera, his cell phone rather, into the screen, and that's a very good point because I use my cell phone a lot. I keep it charged. It's on the charger when I go to bed at night, and I'm going to grab that when I get up, and it has a flashlight built into it, and I've used that many, many times to navigate my house so I don't wake the wife up. I got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't want to wake her up getting dressed, so I'm using that to find my clothes in the dresser and all that. So, let's not overlook the technology that's right there at our fingertips. So we're getting down to about the last 2 minutes, so we're going to begin our closeout process, and we're going to go ahead and start with Jarhead 6. You got anything coming up that you want to tell everybody about?
Yeah, I got a bunch of videos. Well, I went shooting last weekend, and I got a bunch of videos coming up on that. I know I put a video on a Ruger 1022, so I'm gonna do like a range report kind of deal because I shot a bunch of rounds through it, and I still got the review on the pack from militaryluggage.com, and I got to do a review on the targets that I got from Easy to See Targets, and I got a bunch of targets from those guys, and they're pretty cool looking targets. I just wish I would have got them a day before because I went shooting last weekend. So, but hey, I'm gonna go shooting in a couple of weeks again. So yeah, got a bunch of things coming up in the channel. Just stay tuned to my videos, and I appreciate the support and I appreciate you guys watching. And you know how it is. It's good.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. And I noticed that Bombbuster 72 had done a guest video on your channel too. So everybody make sure you go over to Jarhead 6's channel and check that out.
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and I am Ted with the AMFAW channel. We've got some cool stuff coming up, primarily with these guys here and Skinny Medic. So you guys make sure you stay dialed in to the AMFAW channel whenever possible. We don't have any giveaways or anything spectacular going on, but we do have some really cool and exciting guests coming up in the near future. So it's going to be pretty cool. So budget bug out?
Yeah, the two main things that I'm working on at the moment is what you just saw, my flashlight video that I got coming up. So I'm going to be talking about the different categories of flashlights and the different uses of them, things like that, especially for people who don't necessarily maybe aren't into flashlights like I am, but they might still be interested. What are some good ones out there? So I see that Jarhead 6 said to mention Mike. So make sure you check out all of our AMFAW network. But what was I going to say? So flashlights, and also I have a video on a get home bag as well. So I'm going to be working on that. It's I might call it like a Armageddon survival kit or something cool. Haven't decided, but those are my two main things. So flashlight and then my little survival kit video.
Awesome. And so David Wilhoit, you want to kind of take it in there and close us out? I also want to remind everybody before David starts, don't forget, check out the Alabama Owens channel. He's still putting content up, even though he's AWOL from the AMFAW chats here lately. And Skinny Medic had to work tonight, or he'd be here too. So make sure you spend some quality time showing him some love on his channel. All right, David?
Sure. Ted, thanks. I first want to say thanks to everybody that sat in on the chat tonight and watched and had comments. I really appreciate that. I know everybody at the AMFAW channel does. Certainly, everybody check out the two members that aren't here tonight, the Skinny Medic and the Alabama Owens. As far as what I have coming up on D. Will Hoyt Kentucky Gun and Fun, I have a couple product reviews that'll probably be out later this week. At the end of this week, something awesome is going to take place. I have a meeting set up with Anderson Manufacturing. I'm going to get to go to their manufacturing plant and take a personal tour and have the video camera come along. So that is going to be something that should be up in the next week or so, depending on how much footage I get and how long it takes to edit it. Other than that, my name's David. My channel is D. Will Hoyt Kentucky Guns and Fun, and all my friends are warriors.